Today on Locked On Canadians, the Habs have two back-to-backs this week. We're going to talk about what's going to be important for them to do well this week. We're going to talk about the winners and losers of the trade deadline. And finally, what record are we expecting the Habs to have in their final 20 games?
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadians. We want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. My name is Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. And Ian, the Habs, it was not enough to have a back-to-back last weekend. They have two this week. It's a 4-game week. Are you ready to talk about the forecast?
Yeah, it's the final this week. All 4 opponents the Canadiens will play. It's the final time you will see them play the Canadiens this year. So it's a season finale of sorts for across the board for the Habs.
And so we'll start by talking about that, what the Habs need to do well this week. Later, we're going to talk about the winners and losers of the trade deadline. We didn't have a chance to do that yesterday because Kent Hughes was so mysterious, so we had to talk about that. And then finally, there are 20 games left in the season. What record do the Habs need to have in the home stretch? And we'll talk about some players who might have a lot to do with that. All right, let's first start with this week. The Montreal Canadiens are seeing 3 unsavory opponents and then Macklin Celebrini this week. So we have to deal with Toronto, we have to deal with Ottawa, we have to deal with Anaheim, but we do get San Jose on Saturday, which I believe is a plus.
Yeah, it should be a fun week if you hating a lot of these teams. Let's start with Toronto, where things are going, and this is true, poorly. The Toronto Maple Leafs are 27, 26, and 11 for 65 points. They are 8th in the Atlantic Division. They are 2nd worst in the Eastern Conference, just outside the top 5 that they need to be in for their pick to remain, their first round pick to remain in Toronto. Otherwise, Boston gets it, which is funny, but also kind of annoying. This year, they've already played 3 times. This is their final game. The Canadiens lost the opener 5-2, but they bounced back with a 5-2 win of their own in November, a game that we were at. That was a tight game. That was incredible. And then a 2-1 shootout win back in December. Demidov leads the way for the Canadiens against the Toronto Maple Leafs, 3 points in 3 games versus Toronto. Dobson and Anderson each have 2 goals. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in turmoil. That word gets thrown around a lot. It is the only word that I think fits what is going on with that franchise. They're 2-5-3 in their last 10. They have allowed the 2nd most goals in the National Hockey League at 226. They are at a 3.48 goals against per game played. Nylander is still really good, 59 points in 47 games. They do have, however, the 4th best penalty kill in the National Hockey League at 82.8%. However, what version of that the Canadiens will see on Tuesday remains to be seen. There's no more Chris Tanev. He's done for the year. They traded a bunch of guys. Who's to say what we end up seeing? What are you looking at for this game against Toronto? I don't like to use the word trap game, but do you think this is a trap game?
The Toronto Maple Leafs are the only team out of 32 who has not won a single game since the Olympic break. Toronto Maple Leafs are a very bad team. This is a game I'm worried about. This is a game where I don't know if the Habs are going to do what it takes to keep their foot on the gas, to keep their skates to the necks of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, this is a game that I feel like if the Canadiens do not win it, it is unforgivable.
Yeah, Dobes is going in this one. So if you're of the opinion, like myself, and I believe of Laura, that he's the better of the 2 options, yes, the Canadiens are going to be getting the better goaltending in that game. It does set up an interesting conversation about what Ottawa looks like, but we'll leave that for just a moment. Yeah, I mean, like Toronto and Montreal, when they play each other's standings don't really matter. They always play each other particularly tight. I will say we were at the last game where the Toronto was in the Bell Center, and it was a pretty it was kind of a turning point for that team this season because that was the first really the first mercy pulling of a goalie I've seen in a really long time. Joseph Woll was playing really, really well. and they
But
had
allowed
to
5
pull him,
goals.
but allowed a bunch of goals. I believe it was only 4 because they scored
Okay.
into the empty net at the end. But 4 goals. There was like that delayed penalty where he was just the only one out there trying to make any kind of play. I think this has the first couple minutes of this game are going to be interesting because I think you'll learn what version of the Leafs are going to show up, and if they decide to just roll over, well, I think we'll find that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And that's if you don't, the Canadiens will have a fight on their hands, but I still think their roster's better. It should be good enough to beat that Toronto team. All right, let's head into Ontario for this next one. They are in Ottawa for the final time this season. The Senators are 31-22-9 for 71 points. They are 6th in the Atlantic. Montreal, both of the Canadiens' wins over the Sens have been in overtime this year, a 4-3 overtime win back in November and a 6-5 overtime win in January. They lost 5-2 in December to the Sens. Caufield has eaten the Ottawa Senators alive this year. He has, in 3 games played, he has 3 goals and 4 assists for 7 points in 3 games. Nick Suzuki has 6 points, a goal and an assist. Hudson has 5 assists. Slafkovsky has 4 goals in 3 games against the Sens this year. That's the core of this team's offense, right? Right now, yeah. I didn't even mention Demidov. He'll probably chip in at some point. Newhook always has a habit of scoring against Ottawa, of playing really well against the Sens. Offensively, I think the Canadiens have the tools to get this one done. The problem is that the Sens are very good defensively. They just don't have goaltending.
Yeah.
The Sens have the worst save percentage in the league at an .869. The Habs have the 9th worst. They are 23rd in goals against per game played. The Habs are 24th. So you can see there, like the difference isn't necessarily just the goals. It's when they're getting let in. The Sens are 2nd best in shots against per game and 10th best in shots for per game. However, they will not have Jake Sanderson. He's out week to week. What are you looking at against the Sens on Wednesday?
We haven't seen Brady yet. The Montreal Canadiens haven't seen Brady yet.
Is that right? I think he played the last game.
The really bad one?
Yeah, the one that was really bad. Yeah, I think that Brady Tkachuk played in that game. Yeah. I remember scoring against Montreal this year. Like that's
okay.
We missed him earlier on this year for sure.
So honestly, for me, I don't think this is a trap game. I think this is one where both teams are going to like do their best against each other. Like for some reason, they bring out the best and the worst in each other. So whatever game we have, there's going to be some sort of shenanigans. I don't want to see a repeat of the last effort. I know the Canadiens won that game, but they had no business winning it. It is kind of satisfying to like walk away with 2 points when you think the other team, when the other team really thinks that they deserve it. But I don't want that. I just want the Montreal Canadiens to not fall into the trap of the score effects or that 6-on-5 or whatever it is their demons are. Like those can wait.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'll be a really close game. It's in Ottawa. The Canadiens are traveling on the second half of back-to-back. Montreal does really well on the second half of back-to-back for some reason, though. So, they don't really their success has not allowed them to have that built-in excuse.
Yeah.
So they'll need to come out strong against Ottawa. All right. We'll finish up with the last 2 games on the weekend, and these will be quick coverages because I think these 2 teams are very similar, and these 2 teams we just covered. We covered them last week when the Canadiens headed out west. Both the Sharks and the Ducks give up a ton of goals. At the time last week, the Ducks were 31st in the league in goals against average, goals against per game played, and the Sharks were 30th. So very similar in that respect. Power plays middling, penalty kills middling. There wasn't too much here to get excited about. However, last week the Canadiens had their handful with both of these teams. Like they really struggled against these guys. What do the Canadiens need to do to like have a more mature effort against both of these teams going into the weekend?
I think first of all, don't play Sam Montembeault. Just figure something else out. Anything like get in a guy from the street. So, that's one, because I think like that was a huge problem against, I was going to call them San Francisco. I think really, I want to see, and you talked about this, they need to split up the Matheson-Ghule pairing. I need to see better from Ghule. He's back now. He's recovered. He's had a lot of good games since his return. I need to see good Ghule. Don't yell at us, Kate. Like, I think it's true. Kate and Ghule, capable of more, not showing it right now. Splitting up that pairing should work. But I don't know if they're going to do it. But honestly, like, I think I'm not saying he's the key to defeating those 2 California teams, but you have to keep it out away from the net. Like, it doesn't matter who's in there. If it's Fowler, if it's Dobes, if it's Sam Montembeault. But if it is Sam Montembeault, I just want him on notice that I will be in the building.
I need them to. I either need Matheson and Ghule to figure this out together, and I don't really want to give them any more runway to figure that out. But the other option is, and I know it stinks because they're getting the most out of Hudson and Dobson with them together. Go back to Hudson on the right side with Ghule and put Matheson back with Dobson.
Yeah, that was working.
That was working. Yes, you're not optimizing your lineup, but it's certainly more optimal than having one defensive pair that rules and two that stink.
Yes.
Like at least this way you have one that's good, another one that's good, and that last one still stinks, but it's fine. We're not solving that this season. That ship has sailed.
Yes, it's okay. All right, up next, we didn't get to talk about all the other teams that made mistakes or didn't make mistakes at the trade deadline. We did declare the Habs the winners by doing nothing, but we haven't talked about any other team. So let's talk about especially how that affects the Habs in just a moment here on Locked On Canadiens. This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes, less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. I want to thank you all so much for making us your first listen of the day. And if you've been thinking about joining the Everydayer Club, now is the time. Again, you get ad-free shows and access to our group chat on Discord. And if you're signed up before the NCAA tournament tips off, you can get into our Everydayer Club bracket pool on Discord for a chance to win Locked On merch. Should be a lot of fun. Right now, you can use code MARCH to get your first month free. Head to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to know more. All right, let's get into it. There's a lot of movement on trade deadline day. There were a lot of trades. And I know a lot of people said that there were no big trades, but I would like to say that there were some big players that were moved. Like there were some teams that got players that might not have been the biggest superstars in the NHL, but like I feel like they made a significant change to their lineup with it.
Yeah, I think one of the more under the radar moves that happened on trade deadline day, just because I don't think it was a name a lot of people thought might be on the move at the time. I really love Connor Garland to Columbus a lot. Yeah. That's a player that when he became available the first time when he was still in Arizona, I was like, I kind of think he could be a Hab. That makes a lot of sense. He's a really smart, undersized forward, but again, he's been undersized his whole life and it hasn't mattered yet. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be a really good fit for Columbus. And I think Columbus understood what they needed to do at this trade deadline. Yes, they're on the outside of the playoff picture, but they're playing really well. They have a shot to get back into it. And they grab a player who finds himself in a situation where, he's under contract for the next few years. This isn't a buy now, and if you miss, oopsie, we blew it move. Like this is we're building our team here.
Yeah.
I liked that move for Columbus. Columbus understood what they are now, which is a team that could make the playoffs if they start to pick up their play, and they decided to reward that, but also a team that should be trying to make it next year, and they wanted to prepare for that. That's the sort of move that if I were the Canadiens and there was an option out there to make that kind of move, I would have made a swing like that. But for Columbus, that made a ton of sense.
I agree. Another one was John Carlson. To me, that felt like it came out of nowhere. I don't know if it was because it was the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And also it's not that I didn't think like Washington should sell. I did think so. I just didn't think he would be a name that would have been on the trade block.
Yeah, he's in the last year of his deal. So it's a risk for Anaheim. I mean, Anaheim's probably going to make the playoffs. That division is so bad. There was a time when they were on the top of it, and I think Edmonton ended up jumping back into the top spot in that division with their win over Vegas on Sunday. But like, I like that to me, to put this in terms of like what the Canadiens have done. That's their like Patrick Laine move, right? Like that's telling that young team, hey, we believe in you. Look, we're adding this really nice piece. John Carlson's a fantastic hockey player. He's getting older.
Yeah,
he's probably got like one more good contract in him before it's all said and done. But I look at what that blue line looks like for Anaheim. We'll see John Carlson this weekend. You go from Carlson to Radko Gudas to Jackson Lacombe, who's great, to Pavel Mintyukov. Like there are a lot of really good players on that blue line. Like they built a very, very good blue line. It's just for me how they build out the rest of that roster. But they have the goalie, they have great defenders, and eventually Carlson's not going to be there forever, even if he does play for the next few years. But I think they've got the right parts there to be a significant player in the Western Conference. And you look at a team like San Jose, they might have a challenger.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't surprise me if in 2-3 years from now the Pacific is run through those two teams. And we're seeing what we're seeing in the Central with Minnesota and Dallas and Colorado. And we're seeing that in the Pacific with maybe like Edmonton and those two teams from California. I don't know what the Kings are doing. Don't ask me what the Kings are doing. They're probably losers in all of this. I never really understood what was going on there.
Yeah. And then in the Atlantic, it's just all like 5 out of the teams will always just be like jostling for position. Was there any were there any moves that to you looked at that and went and you said WTF?
Everything Toronto did. Like they had one mission, and it was to sell. And yes, they sell Nick Waugh and they get a first. That was ahead of the trade deadline. Great job. And then they sell Bobby McMahon and they get a pick for him. And then they sell Scott Lawton and they get a conditional second for him that only becomes a second if the Kings make the playoffs. They got as much or less for Scott Lawton than Nashville got from Michael McCarron. What happened? Yeah. What happened?
What are we doing?
That is a front office that is just, I think, counting the days until they get their pink slips. Like they feel entirely disinterested in what's going on. The coach seems entirely disinterested in what's going on. And speaking of disinterested in what's going on, the New York Rangers, you write a letter that says we're going to retool this thing. And then the trade deadline goes and you slept in. Like what happened? Like, and Drury comes out and says, well, we didn't have to make a deal just because we wrote a letter. Then don't write the letter, dummy. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, you kind of do. When you tell your fans, we owe it to you guys, we're going to get better. There's going to be pain, but we're going to do our best. And then you come out and you make 0 trade deadline deals and you don't sell anybody. Don't write the letter then, because all of it is just lip service and it meant nothing.
Yeah. I also know that there's a lot of players on the Rangers with no movement clauses, which we'll get into in a second. We ranted about it yesterday, but last week you said the St. Louis Blues were the main character of this trade deadline. And it was kind of underwhelming what they did, right? Like if I'm a Blues fan.
Yeah. Well, so Colton Parayko doesn't waive his no trade clause, and that trade gets out, and it's a big embarrassment for that team. And for that, they're putting that player in such an unfair spot.
Yeah.
I know Doug Armstrong came out and he said, well, it wasn't us that leaked it. Whatever. I don't believe you. I don't have to believe you. Robert Thomas came out and said that he was never asked to waive his no trade clause, which means none of that was ever close. And all of that noise around Robert Thomas being like, he's going to get dealt. I told you on this show, I said, I don't buy a lick of that. None of it makes any sense. He has a no trade clause. There's not even a guarantee he's going to waive to go anywhere. And it turns out they never even asked him because none of this trade stuff was true.
Yeah.
Like that. I saw that there was a Friedman report that was like, the deal from Buffalo would have like decimated the Rochester Americans. And it's like, but that was never on the table because they didn't even go to the player and ask him, do you want to go to Buffalo? It never happened.
Yeah.
I've never seen so many phantom rumors than this time around. It was bad this year. And you can tell why. There wasn't a lot of movement on deadline day. And I think these guys who sit there on TV for 8 hours need to sell the program, and they can't do it themselves.
And they have to sell it after too, right? Like on their podcasts and all
Ugh.
of that. And so here's the thing. If we have any listeners that have way too much time on their hands, next season we're going to start with this, right? Like July 1st is over. Next season, you like take down the top 10 insiders or whoever, and then just like keep track of all the things they say. And then we can keep track of how many of them actually come true. And then we'll
Yeah.
know if people are just talking just to talk or not.
I saw there was somebody who was keeping track of which insiders broke the most trades, and it was Friedman, and it wasn't close. Like it
Right.
was like Friedman at 15, and then the next closest was like 7. Like he is new Bobby,
Yeah.
but we all liked Bobby more. Let's be honest.
Yes.
I think there's just a lot of noise out there. I think agents and general managers are out there just throwing noise into the ecosystem and trying to throw everybody off, and it works because we sat around, the whole time. People were going, Montreal's making a move for Kadri, and it was never even close.
Yeah.
Like,
Or like Montreal's interested in Robert Thomas, and no.
No, everybody was interested in Robert Thomas, and nobody was getting him because those none of those were real. I think the Blues just made so much noise this time around. The Blues were what Calgary was last year. Remember how loud Calgary was? Just, oh, we're gonna trade everybody, everybody's going, and then they didn't do anything. Like that's what that felt like.
They didn't do anything, and I think that's crucial. All right, up next, the Habs only have 20 games left. What do they need to do to guarantee themselves? Well, there's never any guarantees. What do they need to do to make sure they get into the playoffs? We'll talk about that in 1 second here on Locked On Canadiens. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now, FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. I have to say it's one of the reasons I love March. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. All right. I love math, but I don't do it. But I can tell you that the Canadiens have played 62 games, and I know that means there's 20 games left in the season. So we kind of wanted to think about what the Canadiens need to do. It is a very, very tight playoff race, not just in the Atlantic Division, but also in the East. There's some teams that are making some noise. There's some teams that are running away with it. And so I just, I feel like we talk a lot about the things the Montreal Canadiens can control. And I think, the Canadiens cannot control what any other team is doing. The only things they can control are what they do, right? And so for me, I'm looking at it, and I think it's less of a like they need to win X number of games or like get X number of points in the next 20 games to guarantee that they make that they get a playoff spot. I think it's more the Montreal Canadiens specifically need to do some specific things. For example, have a better penalty kill.
Yeah, be better in 5-on-6.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'd laugh about it, but like the problems on this team are not difficult to pinpoint. Like the problems, and that's good that it's good in that, like, hey, they know what they can focus on in practice, and it's bad because it's March and the same problems are there.
Yeah.
It's a young team. I get all that. I did some of the number crunching on this, or should I say I looked into Mika Blake McCurdy, who always, if you follow him on Blue Sky, you'll see that he always posts like his point projections. He runs his model every day, and it spits out a bunch of different information for us to take in. I looked at this as of today on Monday, and his model says that to make the playoffs in the Atlantic, you'll need 95.2 points. So let's call it 96 to get in and avoid all the tiebreakers. The 0.2 to me indicates like that's when we go into tiebreaker territory. So 96 gets you in. That means the Canadiens at 78 points now. They need 18 more to get in, which means in the remaining 20 games, they need 9 wins. They need to go less than 500 to make the playoffs. That's why the playoff number for them is if you go to Money Puck, their playoff percentage is in the low 80s, because it's like, yeah, it's probably most realistic for them to make it at this point. To win the division, they have the division winning Lightning as 108 points in the standings. The Canadiens will need 30 points to get there. So that's 15 out of 20 games won. Unless the Lightning fall off, that's going to be really difficult to do. But remember, we're only talking about what the Canadiens can control here. And then to win home ice, so to get into the second seed in the Atlantic, they have Buffalo sitting there currently at 103 points. So Montreal would need 25 points, which is 13 of their remaining 20 games won. Montreal right now is currently projected for 100 points flat, 100.0, which would really, really be fun. That'd be a really nice feather in their cap this year to end the season with 100 points. I think that would be, regardless of where they end up and who they play in the playoffs, I think 100-point season out of this team would be really special.
We haven't seen it in a long time.
No, it's been a very long time.
Yeah.
I think the last time they had 100 points in a season was the season they fired Michel Therrien and hired Claude Julien mid-year. I think that was the last time they hit 100 points.
Yeah. And it doesn't happen very often, right? I think the 13 wins is not impossible. I think it's doable. I don't know how likely it is given their issues keeping the puck out of the net, out of their own net. But I think it's just something where like they need to look at it and say we need to aim for those 15 out of 20 wins and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Is
15 out of 20 wins the same as what?
I don't think that they're looking at this way. The way that we are as fans and looking at magic numbers, they're looking out there, go out there and just play their game. And if they're playing it the right way, they'll pick up points and the rest of it won't matter. Like that's how hockey teams look at that. That's not how we are expected to look at this.
Yes. But there's definitely a nerd in that front office somewhere that's doing the same thing as Mike is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say this though, like when you say they want to go out there and play the right way, like do you think that they think they're playing the right way?
That's a good question, because I think in a lot of the games that they have played poorly, the players have had very immature responses. We're like, it's a couple bounces here or there. Meanwhile, they get outshot like 40-22, and it's like that's not how this went down, guys. That's not bounces. Unless they got 20 more bounces than you, that's not how this works. I think Marty is trying to play both sides of this, right? He's trying to nurture them in the media and not give them undue criticism for no reason. Like he very much saves his bullets in that respect. But like I think that the team, it's funny. When I watched that Kings game and they came back and won, I was like, oh man, they're gonna learn all the wrong lessons from this. And then I said, that would imply that they've learned any lessons at all this entire year, which I don't necessarily know is the case. A lot of the things that they did wrong in October, they're still doing wrong now.
Yeah.
They're developing in other ways, don't get me wrong, but like the penalty kill is still bad. It's been bad. The 5-on-6 play is bad. It's been bad. Like I don't know that like, oh man, they're going to learn the wrong lessons from winning a game that they ought not to win. No, not really. Cause like, I don't think they're learning a ton of the other lessons ever anyway.
Yeah.
And the same people who will tell you that they're learning the wrong lessons will also say, well, they haven't learned anything all year. Like it's, so we can't just be pessimistic for the sake of it.
Yeah. I will say one thing, like yesterday we talked about their body language when the game wasn't going well for them, and how that shifted and how they did something about it. I think the question for me is not, do they want to do it the right way, or do they have the willingness to do the work, or do they have do they have the ability to see what they do wrong? Like I know the front office and the coaching staff understands what's wrong, right? But I also like listen to a lot of the players, like Nick Suzuki, right?
Yeah.
He admittedly has been around a while. I know he's very young, but he's a veteran on this team. He said, we haven't been happy with our game. Like their California road trip, like he got 3 points, but at least we got this win. Like it's not like he said we had a good game. Like he said we haven't been happy with the way that we've been playing. So, like there is some players that kind of get it, right? Like for me, I just think that the Canadiens really need to worry about winning. Like if they're worried about winning, they're going to be okay this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. it's still too early to do the whole magic number thing of being like, well, if they win this, and this, they'll get in, especially with, the teams that are outside of the playoff spots. They're not that far back. They're not that far behind with regards to, making their way back in the playoff picture. So like they can't rest on anything. They have not been assured anything yet.
No.
So we'll have to wait and see what ends up playing out. But like, more than anything, between now and the end of the year, I would like to see them just make improvements on the things that we know are a struggle. And, did they play the best at 6-on-5 against the Kings? No. Did they win? Yes. So they have the confidence there that they can win in those moments.
Yeah.
They were perfect on the penalty kill in that game. Did they play well on the penalty kill? No. Dobes did. He was phenomenal. But like the rest of them, there's lots of tape there, and at least you have the confidence now that you have a goalie behind you who can make a save in those moments, right? Like those are the things that they need to learn between now and the end of the year.
Also play Caufield on the 6-on-5 or 5-on-6 or whatever it is.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah.
All right, that is it for our show today. We have trivia, and all of a sudden I find that I'm forgetting the question, although I do know what the answer is from yesterday's episode.
Yeah, let me get our question for us. So, with one more minor penalty, Brendan Gallagher will tie Habs legend with 585 penalty minutes. Laura, who is that Habs legend?
It is one Bob Gainey.
It is Bob Gainey. It would be 34th all time for the Montreal Canadiens in penalty minutes. 583 is what Brendan Gallagher is at. 585 would tie Bob Gainey. And the answer was given to us correctly by Super Rain, Kyle Roberts, Valkyrie, and a name we haven't heard from in a while. Good sport. Welcome back, my friend. It's been too long. We're glad to have you back participating in our trivia. All right, today's trivia question. We talked about the Canadiens and the Leafs earlier. Which Montreal Canadien has the most points in a season series against the Toronto Maple Leafs without scoring a goal? So effectively, the person who picked up the most points for the Canadiens in the season series against the Toronto Maple Leafs, only scoring assists, was not allowed to score a goal. If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below this video. Let us know any way you know how, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode of the show. And before I throw this back over to my wonderful co-host, I want to keep giving everybody a heads up about our YouTube subscriber contest. When we hit 4,500 subscribers, we were going to give away this signed photo of Josh Anderson. And when we did the drawing, it was never claimed. So we still have it. And we also have this Arbor Jacki signed photo. And we'll be giving both of them away when we hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Now, in order to enter, you must be subscribed to us on YouTube. That makes sense. It's a subscriber contest. And when we hit 5,000 subscribers, we'll draw from people who have put contest entry in the comments below this video on YouTube, below any of our videos on YouTube. We're keeping a list. We're running it. We'll run it once we get 5,000 subscribers. We're almost there. We've got maybe a couple more weeks left before we get there. So make sure you are subscribed, write contest entry if you want these. And be sure when we get to 5,000 subscribers that you are listening every day, because that's the only way you'll know that we've told you how to reach out to us and who needs to reach out to us. So make sure you're listened, keep subscribing, and thank you for the support. We really appreciate it.
Yes. And also, if you have entered it in the past, so if you entered it for the Arbor Jacki, for the Josh Anderson picture, you were still entered for now both pictures. So if you've entered in the past, as long as you're still subscribed, then you are still eligible for it. And I have to say that Arbor Jacki picture looks majestic. And the Josh Anderson picture just looks handsome.
It's true.
Yeah. So you want both of these. All right. I know the answer to the trivia question, and it's great. So make sure that you put in your guesses for the trivia question. All right. We want to thank you all for tuning in today to Locked On Canadiens. Obviously, tomorrow's show will be after the Toronto Maple Leafs game, so we will have a recap, and hopefully it'll be a happy episode. So make sure you're subscribed to and you follow this podcast so you get all of the latest episodes. You can find us all over social media. We're on Locked On Canadiens on Blue Sky, on TikTok, and on Instagram. You can also email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. We love your mailbag questions. We love hearing who your favorite player is. We just really like interacting with you guys. And if you never miss an episode, the Everyday Club is built for you. Get Locked On Canadiens, ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and more. Head to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com, and don't forget the code MARCH for 1 month free to join the club. And for those of you who are on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And if you're on audio, make sure you make your second listen of the day NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. They cover all the games in the night before, and once in a while you see our happy faces on there as well. We want to thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you tomorrow.